I knew the second I stepped through those glass doors, I shouldn't have come. The air inside the luxury car showroom was thick with polished chrome and cologne, and everyone looked like they either owned a dealership or built the engine with their bare hands. My suit felt a size too tight, my shoes too cheap. Sandra, calm as always, rested her hand on my lower back. "We belong here," she said quietly, like she could read my mind. She always could. Adam tugged hard at his tie and scrunched his face like it was killing him. "Dad, it's choking me." I crouched down to fix it. "It's just for a little while, buddy. Arcade after, remember?" His eyes lit up a bit and he nodded. That helped. The expo was louder than I expected. Engineers and salespeople buzzed from booth to booth, everyone trying to prove they were the smartest person in the room. Screens flashed, high-end cars spun slowly on rotating platforms. Sandra fit right in. I didn't. Then the crowd shifted, just slightly, and I froze. There she was, my sister, Evelyn, standing up on the small stage next to the groom, a champagne flute in her hand. She looked poised, professional, like she owned the room. I hadn't heard her name in years. I'd seen the invitation from Brad Mitchell. Thought maybe it was an old friend of Sandra's or someone from Adam's school. It never clicked. Apparently, Evelyn doesn't use our last name anymore. Her eyes landed on mine. For a second, everything quieted, just slightly, like someone turned the volume down one notch. Her smile twitched. My parents stood near her. My mom's face dropped. My dad stiffened, then stepped forward like he needed to block me from view. I stood tall. I didn't move. Sandra didn't either. Her fingers gripped mine. Adam tugged at my sleeve again. "Is that lady from TV?" he asked. "No," I muttered. "Just someone we used to know." I saw the panic ripple through Evelyn's expression. Then the calculation kicked in. The fake smile. The tilt of her head. Her grip on Brad's arm tightened, but he was still laughing, clueless. I hadn't seen any of them in over 10 years, but that look on my parents' faces, the mix of surprise, shame, and immediate hostility, told me everything I needed to know. They didn't want me here, and they never expected I'd show up standing next to someone like Sandra, with a son in a tie and my name on a rising company. Too bad. I adjusted Adam's collar one last time and stepped deeper into the room. My mom reached me first. She stormed across the polished floor like she still had every right to scold me in public. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was low, but sharp enough to slice concrete. She barely glanced at Adam, didn't even blink at Sandra. Before I could answer, my dad came up fast behind her and cut between us, standing half a step in front of Evelyn like he thought I was a threat, like I'd swing on her or something. I didn't flinch, I didn't move at all. Sandra stepped forward, calm, composed, one hand on Adam's shoulder. "Hi, I'm Sandra Dawson. This is our son, Adam. We were invited by Brad, your daughter's fiancé." She offered a handshake, but neither of them took it. A few people nearby turned their heads. I caught one guy nudge his buddy and whisper. I heard the name Dynatech. My mom's expression cracked for a half second. My dad glanced at Sandra like he was trying to place her. Evelyn, still frozen up on that stage, started walking over fast, too fast to be casual. "You're Sandra Dawson?" a woman in a red blazer asked from behind us. She looked maybe early 50s, sharp suit, conference badge. Dynatech's lead engineer on the AI brake system. Sandra nodded once. "That's right." The woman turned to her colleague. "That's her. I told you she'd be here. They just got the FAA certification for the highway fleet trials. Big move." Another murmur spread through the crowd. Heads turned. People started recognizing us, or more specifically, her. My chest tightened. Not from nerves, just memory. I remembered standing in our kitchen the night they told me I was done. 21, kicked out with nothing but a backpack. My dad had said, "You chose your path. You don't support the family business, you don't get family support." Evelyn just stood behind them, arms crossed, silent like always. Watching me fall didn't seem to bother her one bit. A tall man in a navy suit stepped up, smiling. "You must be Sandra," he said, shaking her hand confidently. "I'm Brad. This must be Adam." He turned to me. "And I'm guessing you're—" His eyes flicked to Evelyn, who had just reached us. She grabbed his arm mid-sentence. I gave her a smile, not smug, not warm, just enough. "Congratulations, Evelyn," I said, loud enough for the surrounding group to hear. That one line hit harder than anything else I could have said. Her face stiffened. Her eyes darted to our parents. Brad's brow furrowed. "You two know each other?" he asked. Evelyn didn't answer right away. Her hand on his arm twitched slightly. "We're siblings," I said before she could lie. "Technically." Brad's face shifted, slow and careful. He looked at Evelyn again, then back at me. His gaze dropped to Adam, then Sandra, then back to me. "Wait," he said slowly, pointing toward me. "You're her brother?" He looked genuinely confused, shocked even. "You never told me she had a brother," he said to Evelyn. Evelyn opened her mouth like she had something rehearsed, then shut it. "She doesn't bring me up much," I said. "Don't worry, I'm not here to make trouble, just enjoying the show." A beat passed. Brad looked at Sandra like he was recalibrating everything he thought he knew. "You work together?" Sandra nodded. "We co-designed the new AI brake logic. We lead the team at Dynatech." Another wave of whispers spread across the room. I caught my dad's jaw tighten. My mom still hadn't said a word since her first outburst. Evelyn finally spoke. "This isn't the time or place." Brad glanced at her again. "Kind of seems like the perfect place, considering it's the Auto Expo and you told me your family had deep roots in the industry." The silence stretched. I looked at Sandra. She gave me the tiniest nod. I turned back to Brad and smiled. "Nice to finally meet you. Looks like you've built something pretty special here." He nodded, distracted, still watching Evelyn. She looked like she was about to choke on her own tongue. I adjusted Adam's jacket, turned back to the crowd, and walked with Sandra straight toward the tech demo booth, where all the real work actually was. We stopped at the edge of the tech demo area. Sandra slid into a quick conversation with a pair of engineers from Seattle who immediately recognized her. Adam climbed onto a bar stool and spun slowly while chewing the mint I gave him. I kept half an eye on Evelyn. She had gathered a small crowd near the stage, 3 middle-aged guys with auto badges, plus 2 women who looked like firm execs. Evelyn was smiling wide, gesturing to the concept car behind her like she had built the damn thing herself. "Integrated torque harmonics with an enhanced combustion algorithm," she said, drawing it out like a buzzword soup. The younger woman in the group blinked. "I don't think that applies to electric drivetrains." Evelyn didn't miss a beat. "Of course, that's what I meant. For hybrid application models." Another guy frowned. "But this is a full EV build, isn't it?" Evelyn let out a laugh that sounded just a little too loud. "Right, of course, sorry, it's been a long week." Brad stood a few steps behind her, not quite beside her anymore. His arms were folded now, eyes scanning the room. When someone from the group asked about software integration, he didn't even look at Evelyn. His head turned toward us. By now, Sandra had 3 people standing around her, one holding a business card, the other asking how we trained our AI model. They were listening to her like she was speaking gospel. I felt it like a pulse, the shift, interest moving, focus changing. People realizing that maybe the couple they tried to ignore at first wasn't just there, we belonged. Evelyn kept going, steamrolling through her nonsense. We took a modular platform approach using layered input sensors from European benchmarks. One guy scratched his head. "Are you talking about sensor fusion?" Evelyn faltered. Brad stepped in. "Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to hear more about Dynatech's system," he said, loud enough for everyone in that circle to hear. "Can we swing over?" Evelyn looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under her. She reached for his arm. He was already moving. He walked straight to us. "So, this is the system you guys built?" Sandra smiled. "Yes, real-time predictive braking. AI-assisted threat evaluation. The car sees things humans can't, and it reacts before we even touch the pedal." Someone whistled. "I saw the beta tests. No drift on snow?" "Zero," I said. "That was Sandra's sensor work." Brad looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Then my father appeared at my side, like a shadow. "This isn't your moment," he hissed. "You had no business coming here, and now you're hijacking your sister's wedding." I didn't even bother turning toward him. Sandra did. She looked him in the eye and said calmly, "He was invited. You all just didn't expect him to walk in successful." He opened his mouth, but she cut him off with a smile that could slice metal. "You remember how he paid his way through trade school, right? 3 jobs, took night classes, spent weekends rebuilding busted systems out of junkyard wrecks." Her voice was steady. He co-wrote the patent application for our adaptive brake system. I may be the face, but he made it work. So, before you talk about who deserves a moment, maybe you should ask who earned it. Dead silence. Even the guy from the beta tests looked at me differently now. Adam turned in his seat, legs swinging. "Did Aunt Evelyn go to the same school as Daddy?" he asked. Heads turned. Brad looked at Evelyn, then back to me. "No, sweetheart," Sandra said gently. "Your dad went to Glenridge Tech." "I thought Aunt Evelyn said she went there too," Adam replied, squinting. "She told me that once, said it was the best school ever, and that's why she knew more than Daddy." That stopped Evelyn cold. Brad narrowed his eyes. "Evelyn told you she went to Glenridge?" he asked Adam directly. Adam nodded like it was the most casual thing ever. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Evelyn tried to laugh it off. Kids mix things up. But nobody was buying it now, not anymore. Brad's posture changed again, slight, subtle. But I saw it. His weight shifting toward me, his hand pulling just a little further from hers. That was when I knew. The cracks weren't just forming, they were already there, and she was standing on top of them like they'd hold. Evelyn tried to recover fast. She straightened her shoulders and smiled too hard. "Glenridge Tech has a strong applied engineering track," she said, eyes darting between Brad and the cluster forming around us. "I focused on systems integration." Brad tilted his head. "Which cohort were you in?" Evelyn blinked. Well, it was a while ago." "What year?" he pressed. She waved a hand. "They didn't really do cohorts like that back then." A guy with a silver badge frowned. "They've done cohorts since the late 90s. Evelyn's laugh cracked. "I meant informally." Brad didn't smile. "Who was your advisor?" She opened her mouth, closed it. "Dr. Harrison." Sandra didn't move. I didn't either. The silver badge guy shook his head. "Harrison retired before the program even launched." The circle tightened. People leaned in without meaning to. Phones stopped scrolling. Conversations around us slowed, like the room sensed something was breaking. A woman stepped forward, extending her hand toward me. "I'm Linda Walsh, Glenridge Tech Alumni Board." She nodded at Sandra. "We ran your system through winter trials last year. It outperformed our baseline by 30%. Sandra thanked her. I nodded once. Linda looked at me. "You're the one who solved the false positive issue on black ice, right?" "Yes," I said. She smiled. "Saved us months. We cited your work in our internal report." Brad's eyes flicked from Linda to Evelyn. "So, you went to Glenridge too?" Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Yes." Linda smiled politely. "That's great. What year did you graduate?" Evelyn shifted her weight. "I transferred." Brad frowned. "You told me you graduated." "I did," Evelyn snapped, then softened her tone. "Just not traditionally." Linda kept her voice even. "Transferred where?" Evelyn hesitated. "Another program." Brad folded his arms. "Which one?" The pause stretched. Too long. "Out of state," Evelyn said finally. Linda nodded slowly. "Interesting, because Glenridge keeps records of every transfer partner. We don't have you listed." A ripple moved through the crowd. Whispers slid along the edges like wind through tall grass. Brad took a step back from Evelyn. "Not much, just enough." "You said you worked in the Glenridge lab," he said. "You mentioned the robotics wing." Evelyn's voice rose. "I did." "What floor?" She laughed again. "Brad, this is ridiculous." "What floor?" he repeated. She looked at our parents. They stared straight ahead. "Second," she said. Linda's eyebrows lifted. "The robotics lab is on the 4th. Brad exhaled through his nose. "Evelyn." She reached for him. "Why are you doing this to me?" "I'm asking questions," he said. "Basic ones." Someone behind us whispered, "Did she lie about her degree?" Another voice. "I thought she was consulting for Dynatech." Sandra didn't respond. She didn't need to. Brad rubbed his jaw. "You told me you knew the Glenridge faculty." "I do." "Name one," he said. She named someone who'd passed away years ago. That did it. Brad took another step back. His body angled away from her now, toward us, toward the truth stacking up in front of him. "So, you didn't go there," he said quietly. "Did you?" Evelyn's eyes flashed. "Why does it matter?" It matters because you built your entire story on it, he said. You told me that's why you understood the industry, why you belonged in rooms like this. She grabbed his sleeve. Brad, please. He pulled free. Linda cleared her throat. I don't want to intrude, she said, already intruding. But if you ever want to verify credentials, Glenridge's alumni office is pretty thorough. Brad nodded once. I believe that. The whispers got louder. People stopped pretending not to listen. A few stepped closer. Others drifted away from Evelyn entirely. She looked around like the floor had tilted. Brad's voice dropped. What else did you lie about? Her mouth opened. No sound came out. I adjusted Adam's sleeve and took Sandra's hand. Brad stared at Evelyn for a long second, then shook his head. I need some air. He turned and walked toward the exit without looking back. Evelyn stood there alone, clutching an empty glass as the crowd slowly shifted away from her. I guided my family toward the demo floor as the murmurs followed behind us. I felt Brad before I saw him. He caught up to me near the edge of the demo floor, just past the crowd gathered around the brake system display. Hey, he said, not angry, not loud, just tired. Can I talk to you for a minute? I nodded and followed him a few steps away from the noise. He ran a hand through his hair. I need you to be straight with me, all of it, right now. I don't do anything else, I said. He looked down, then back up. Evelyn told me she built her career from nothing, that she fought her way up, that her family didn't believe in her. I let out a short breath. She took that from me. His jaw tightened. Start from the beginning. My parents kicked me out when I was 21, I said. No build-up, no cushion. I wouldn't work at the auto shop full-time. I wanted to learn systems, not just wrench work. They said I was ungrateful and cut me off. Brad's eyes didn't leave my face. I worked 3 jobs, I went on. Warehouse nights, quick lube mornings, weekend towing, slept on couches, ate vending machine dinners, put myself through trade school, then night classes at Glenridge. Took anything that paid. He swallowed hard. Evelyn said she worked nights too. I did, I said. She didn't. He nodded slowly, like each word was landing heavy. And Dynatech? I met Sandra in a shared lab, I said, glancing toward her across the floor. She was kneeling next to Adam, showing him how the sensor display worked. We were both there late every night, talking diagnostics, arguing logic trees, fixing problems nobody else wanted. Brad watched them. Really watched them. She hired me onto her team when Dynatech spun up, I said. We built the brake system together, every version, every failure. He exhaled, sharp. Evelyn told me those stories, the lab, the late nights, the struggle. I figured. Brad looked away. She even said she hated Glenridge because they didn't recognize her work. I didn't smile. They didn't recognize her because she wasn't there. He closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, they were glassy. I feel like an idiot. You're not, I said. You trusted someone you loved. He nodded, then looked at me again. Why didn't you stop this? If you knew? I didn't come here for her, I said. I came because we were invited. That's it. I'm not here to ruin anyone's life. Brad studied me, searching for the angle. You could have blown this up earlier. Could have, I said. Didn't need to. Sandra walked over then, calm as ever. Everything okay? Brad turned to her. I think I finally understand. She didn't gloat, didn't soften either. Good. He looked at Adam, who waved at him. Brad waved back, distracted. You've built a real life, Brad said quietly. Not just a story. Sandra nodded. That's the point. Brad straightened, shoulders squaring like he was bracing himself. Thank you for telling me. I needed the truth. I extended my hand. He shook it, firm, respectful. I'm sorry, he said, for how you were treated tonight. It's not new, I said. Just louder. He let out a rough breath, then stepped back toward the crowd, not toward Evelyn. I returned to Sandra and Adam, resting a hand on my son's shoulder as the system demo lit up again. I stepped into the restroom just to splash some water on my face. No crowd, no eyes, just a second to breathe. The door slammed behind me. I didn't need to turn around. I saw her reflection in the mirror before I even moved. You ruined everything, Evelyn snapped. I grabbed a paper towel, wiped my face, and tossed it. I showed up. That's all I did. You knew what would happen, she said, stepping closer. You wanted this. You came to blow everything up. I turned to face her. I came because I was invited. You're the one who built a wedding on top of a lie. She laughed once, bitter and sharp. God, you always play the victim. No, I said. Victims get help. I didn't. I got kicked out, remember? You stood there and watched them throw me out like trash. She looked away, jaw clenched, her voice dropped. They said you'd never make it. I waited. They said you were too stubborn, that you'd crash. They told me not to feel guilty because you brought it on yourself. I nodded slowly. While you had Cancun and cash, I had couches and vending machine dinners. Her voice cracked. They said you were gone, that you were done. Yeah, I said. I was supposed to disappear, right? Just vanish and make space for your perfect little success story. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned back to the mirror, breathing hard, pulled out a mascara wand like that could fix any of it. She muttered, You don't get it? I get it perfectly, I cut in. You needed me to stay gone, because every time I showed up, I reminded you how fake it all was. She didn't answer. I stepped toward the door. You made your choice. I made mine. And I didn't need lies to build mine. She didn't turn around, just stared at herself and tried to hold it all together with eyeliner. I walked out and let the door swing shut behind me. Sandra was right where I left her, kneeling beside Adam, pointing at the sensor array like it was magic. He looked up when he saw me. Dad, did you see the break demo? I smiled. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said. And Adam grinned wide. Before I could ask what he thought of the break demo, someone tapped me on the shoulder. A woman in a navy dress with a lanyard that read Southwestern Tech University stepped in front of me. Excuse me, are you the lead engineer on the predictive braking logic? Co-lead, I said, nodding toward Sandra. We're revamping our internship pipeline for advanced systems. Would Dynatech be open to hosting some of our students this summer? Sandra stood. Email me this week. I'll send you the framework we use for new recruits. The woman lit up. Perfect. Thank you. She turned to her colleagues and waved them over. Before I finished my next breath, we were surrounded. A guy from Argonne Automotive shook my hand, then Sandra's. I've been trying to get someone from Dynatech on the phone for months, he said. Can we talk partnership, supplier integration? Sandra raised an eyebrow. We don't do speculation, but if you're serious, I'm very serious. He handed me his card with both hands, like it meant something. A second later, 2 execs from a German EV startup joined in, asking about component licensing. I noticed Evelyn circling in the background, not talking, just watching. She hovered near clusters of guests, trying to edge in, but the attention kept shifting away, sliding over her shoulder to us. She looked like someone drowning in slow motion. One of the Glenridge reps leaned in. You know, we used to host Evelyn at alumni events. She claimed she was one of ours. I even gave a speech once. He paused. Guess we know better now. I didn't say a word, just nodded. Evelyn tried again a few minutes later, jumped into a nearby group talking about safety integrations, and launched into some fluff about vehicle autonomy trends. But people weren't listening. One man actually cut her off mid-sentence to ask Sandra a question about live firmware updates. She stood there for a second, blinking. Then she stepped away like she meant to check something on her phone. But I saw her wipe the corner of her eye. My parents finally pushed their way back into the crowd. My dad raised his voice just enough to grab attention. We're so proud of both our kids, he said. Evelyn, especially, she's the reason this whole family's in the business. My mom added, she practically grew up under the hood, always had a head for engineering. The people near them barely turned. A woman from the OEM partnership group looked over at me. Is that true? She asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. I smiled. No. That got a laugh. My dad shot me a warning glare, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to explain anything. The truth was already printed in white papers, project briefs, and patent files. It was in Sandra's name, my name. Dynatech system on the showroom floor. The shifting tide didn't need a narrator. Adam pulled at my sleeve and leaned in close. Are those people our family? I glanced toward my parents and Evelyn. No, I said. They're relatives. Family's different. He nodded like that made perfect sense, then asked if he could go try the virtual crash demo again. Go ahead, I said. Stick with the seatbelt sim this time. Sandra turned toward me, her expression calm, focused. They're trying so hard. she said under her breath. To flip the narrative? I asked. To hold on to it, she said. But it's not theirs anymore. I looked around, at the engineers, the university reps, the suppliers, all locked in with Sandra, all pulling out notebooks, asking real questions. Evelyn hovered near the catering table now, pretending to check her phone again. My mom kept glancing over, hoping someone would bite. My dad looked like he wanted to shout, but no one was listening to them, and for the first time in years, I didn't care. We were headed for the exit when I spotted Brad by the side doors, staring out at the parking lot like it might give him answers. I walked over and handed him a small envelope. No label, just sealed, thick enough to feel deliberate. "What's this?" he asked. "Closure," I said. "Not ammo." He looked down at it, then back at me. Inside was a copy of the email chain between Sandra and the event coordinator, the proof that we were invited directly by the groom's planning team, plus a copy of the Dynatech white paper Evelyn had taken pieces from in old interviews. No commentary, just facts. "I appreciate it," he said, voice low. "More than you know?" I nodded. "Good luck, Brad." He stuck out his hand. This time, I didn't hesitate. As we stepped out onto the walkway, I caught one last look inside. My parents were working the room, smiling too hard, whispering with too much energy, trying to pull attention back like it was a game they still thought they could win. Sandra stopped walking. "1 second." She turned and walked right back inside. I followed, slower. By the time I caught up, she was already standing in front of my parents, calm, tall, nothing theatrical, just deadly clear. "You lied to your son," she said. "You told him he'd never make it. You cut him off when he didn't do what you wanted. And now, here you are, pretending like none of it happened." My mom's mouth opened, but Sandra held up a hand. "You watched him work 2 jobs and sleep in his car. You watched me help him put it all back together, and still, you couldn't say a single kind word when we walked in tonight." My dad straightened his jacket, defensive already. "This isn't the place." "It wasn't your place," Sandra cut in. "Not then, not now." Silence. People nearby had stopped talking. I didn't care. Adam stepped up beside me and looked at them both. "Why don't you treat Dad like family?" Neither of them answered. He waited. So did I. The silence stretched too long to fix. I gave it a beat, then stepped forward. Looked them both in the eye. "Thank you," I said. My mom squinted. "For what?" "For pushing me out," I said. "For making sure I had to figure it all out on my own. Because I did, and it's better this way." Their faces didn't move. No apology, no defense. I took Sandra's hand and started walking. Behind me, Adam asked, "Are we still going to the arcade?" "Absolutely," I said. "You've earned it." 1 month later, Brad showed up at my office. No warning, just walked in past the front desk, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Same blazer from the expo, this time wrinkled and unbuttoned, his tie shoved into his coat pocket. I stood up from my desk. "You okay?" He shut the door behind him. "No." He didn't sit down, just stood there, arms loose at his sides, like he didn't know what to do with them. "I filed for divorce," he said. I didn't say anything. Let him keep going. "She never took a single engineering class, not one." He let out a hollow laugh. "Everything she ever told me was a patchwork of crap she stole from interviews and white papers. Mostly yours, I guess." He walked over to the window, stared out like the city could give him an answer. "That wasn't even the worst of it," he said. I leaned against the desk. "What was?" "She was doing the books at your parents' shop," he said. "I started going through the finances when something felt off. Found years of falsified invoices. Repairs that were never done. Double-charged claims." My stomach didn't drop. I didn't even blink. Of course she was. Brad turned back to me. "She was filing insurance paperwork for parts that never existed, submitting claims for jobs that were never completed. At first I thought it was just them, but her name's on too much. And?" He hesitated. "I filed a report last week." I nodded. "Okay. I need to ask," he said carefully. "Would you be willing to give a statement, help confirm some of the shop records, just back up the timeline?" I looked at him for a long second. He wasn't trying to trap me. He wasn't even angry. He was just unraveling. "I'll send a document," I said. "Signed, with the dates I worked there. That's all." He swallowed. "You don't want to say more?" "No." He frowned. "Why not?" Because I'm not doing revenge, I said. I'm doing distance. Brad leaned against the window frame and exhaled hard. I thought I knew her. I know the feeling. He nodded slowly. You were smart to walk away. I didn't walk, I said. They pushed me. I just didn't come back. He looked down at the floor like it might swallow him whole. I thought I was marrying someone who built herself up. You married someone who built a story, I said, then sold it to whoever would listen. Brad stepped toward the door. You sure you don't want to help more? I'm sure, I said. I already did more than I owed. He paused with his hand on the knob. You really built all that from scratch? I nodded. Every piece. He gave me one last look. Not envy, not pity. Just recognition. Then he walked out. I sat back down, opened my inbox, and pulled up the old timesheets from the garage. I exported what he needed, attached it to a short note, and hit send. Then I shut the laptop, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling. Not mad, not smug, just done. 6 months later, I was in the backyard with Adam, digging shallow rows in the dirt behind the shed. Carrots here? He asked, holding the seed packet upside down. Carrots need more space. That's for radishes. He looked unimpressed. Radishes are boring. You'll love them when we roast them, I said, patting the soil down. Sandra came outside with a pitcher of lemonade and 3 glasses. 5th manufacturer signed, she said, setting the tray on the table. It's official. Who? I asked, brushing dirt off my palms. Vermont-based fleet, 80 trucks, all switching to our system by next quarter. Adam raised his hand. We rich now? Sandra laughed. We're secure. That's better. Just as I reached for the lemonade, a delivery guy walked up the driveway holding a certified envelope. Big white one. No return address, just my name typed clean across the front. I signed for it, stepped back inside, and opened it at the kitchen counter. The letter was from Evelyn. 2 pages. No drama. She apologized. Not in circles, not to dodge blame. She said she lied because she was scared. Because every time I got back up, it made her feel smaller. She said our parents made her believe I was gone for good, that I'd failed, that she had to be better, not just for herself, but to prove them right. She said the shop was closed now, investigated, shut down. Our parents got caught, underreporting income, falsifying repairs. She didn't ask for sympathy. She didn't ask for anything. She just said, I see it now. I hurt you to keep myself comfortable. I'm sorry. I read it twice, then went to my desk. I typed a reply, brief, no warmth, no bitterness. Wrote, I appreciate your honesty. The world's harder now. Starting over's not easy. There's an opening for a data entry intern at Dynatech's satellite office. No guarantees, but it's yours to apply for. Attach the application form. Mailed it. 3 weeks later, I saw her at an industry conference in Chicago. She was sitting in the back row of a beginner breakout session, taking notes, eyes down, quiet. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and just chose not to wave. Either way, I didn't stop walking. That night, after Adam went to bed and Sandra finished reviewing specs, I pulled out the final draft of something I'd been working on for over a year. A scholarship fund. In my family name. For students without support. For the ones starting from nothing. For the kids living off vending machine dinners and stubborn grit. I signed the paperwork, dropped it in the outgoing mail bin, and stood by the window a long time. Some roots you're born with. Some you plant yourself. And some you just learn to let go.